The extended range guidance from the ECMWF, initialized on the 26th of January 2026 and valid into the 9/10 February window, points to a highly amplified and energetic pattern across Europe. The hemispheric flow is dominated by a deep and persistent negative height anomaly in the eastern Atlantic, positioned to the southwest of the British Isles. This feature acts as a powerful anchor for the jet stream, repeatedly steering mature Atlantic cyclones toward western and southern parts of the continent. At the same time, anomalously higher pressure across the Arctic and northern Scandinavia reinforces a reservoir of cold air over northern and eastern Europe, establishing a pronounced thermal and weather contrast across the region. Across Western Europe, including Ireland, the United Kingdom, France, and the Iberian Peninsula, conditions are expected to be frequently unsettled and at times hazardous. A strong and active Atlantic storm track will bring successive frontal systems inland, separated only by brief transient ridging. Around the 9/10 February timeframe model, guidance depicts a deep surface low on the order of the mid-980s HPA, positioned west of Portugal, driving a broad swath of rain and strong winds into Iberia and western France. Over the full lead-up period, rainfall accumulations are likely to be substantial, particularly along Atlantic-facing coasts and windward slopes. Totals in the range of 100 to 200 millimeters appear plausible for northern Portugal, Galicia, western France, Ireland, and western parts of the UK, with locally higher amounts where orographic enhancement occurs. Temperatures in lowland areas will generally remain above freezing, keeping precipitation predominantly rain. Snowfall will mainly be confined to higher terrain, including the Pyrenees, the Cantabrian Mountains, and upland areas of Scotland and northern England, where marginal thermal profiles may allow for accumulating snow during colder interludes. The combination of saturated soils, repeated heavy rainfall, and strong onshore winds raises a notable risk of localized flooding and coastal gales, particularly along the Iberian and French Atlantic margins. Central Europe, including the Benelux countries, Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, is forecast to lie near the battleground between mild maritime air attempting to advance eastward and colder continental air resisting from the north and east. This will result in variable and often complex weather conditions. Temperatures are expected to hover near seasonal norms, but with frequent fluctuations, especially during frontal passages. Precipitation will be fairly regular, though generally less intense than along the Atlantic fringe. In lower elevations, precipitation is likely to fall mainly as rain or a rain-snow mix, with limited accumulation outside of brief colder episodes. In contrast, the alpine region is favorably positioned for significant snowfall. Moist southwesterly flow associated with Atlantic systems overrunning colder air trapped in valleys and basins will support repeated snow events. Cumulative snowfall through early February could reach 50 to 100 centimeters or more across large portions of the alpine arc, improving snowpack conditions, but also increasing avalanche risk, particularly on leeward slopes and at higher elevations. Northern Europe, encompassing Scandinavia and the Baltic states, is expected to experience the most persistent and severe winter conditions. High pressure to the north will help maintain a deeply cold air mass, while moisture associated with Atlantic systems wrapping around the eastern flank of the large-scale trough periodically intrudes into this cold environment. Temperatures are forecast to remain consistently below freezing, often well below seasonal averages, especially inland and across northern Scandinavia. Snowfall is likely to be frequent, and at times, heavy model-derived precipitation totals, when converted to snow, suggest widespread accumulations that could reach or exceed 50 to 150 centimeters over the period, particularly across Norway, Sweden, Finland, and parts of the Baltic region. Prolonged snow cover, blowing snow, and reduced visibility will contribute to significant travel disruptions, and the weight of accumulated snow may pose structural concerns in some areas. Southern Europe and the Mediterranean basin are forecast to be influenced by secondary low-pressure development as energy from the primary Atlantic trough propagates eastward. Italy, the Western Balkans, and Greece are likely to see unsettled conditions with periods of widespread rain. Around the 9/10 February timeframe, guidance indicates a well-defined surface low near northern Italy and the Adriatic region, enhancing lift and moisture convergence. Rainfall totals of 50 to 120 millimeters appear possible across parts of Italy, the Western Balkans, and Greece, particularly in areas of complex terrain where upslope flow can intensify precipitation. While lower elevations will mainly experience rain, colder air aloft and higher terrain will favor substantial snowfall along the Apennines, the Dinaric Alps, and mountainous regions of Greece, potentially leading to localized winter travel impacts. Farther east, across Poland, Ukraine, Belarus, and western Russia, the dominant influence will be cold continental air, reinforced by the broader hemispheric pattern. Temperatures are expected to remain below average, with many areas staying below freezing for extended periods. Overall precipitation amounts are forecast to be lower than in Western and Southern Europe, but the majority of any precipitation that does occur will fall as snow. Periodic snow events associated with systems passing to the south and west are likely to add to an already building snowpack, particularly across Belarus and western Russia, contributing to sustained winter conditions. Overall, the early February period is shaping up to be one of strong contrasts across Europe. The primary hazards are expected to include heavy rainfall and flooding potential in parts of Iberia, western France, and Italy, repeated episodes of strong winds and coastal gales along Atlantic coastlines, and widespread at times extreme snowfall across Scandinavia, the Baltic region, and major European mountain ranges.